Hello, and welcome back, my friends, to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. So, for this episode today, folks, I find myself in an old yet familiar place. It's been a while since I've had to make a video like this, and I'll be honest, I didn't think I was going to have to make a video about this ever again. Like, I sincerely thought that the days of me having to, defend Jared Goff from haters were done. Because I was like, dude, we have gone through 3 years of me constantly proving the haters wrong. Like, just incessantly keep doing it. And yet, once again, I find myself back in this situation very much akin to when I was back on DLF. And the thing of the matter is that what's different about this situation, even though the haters are coming after Goff, is that it was only one game. And we're only 2 games into the season. And yet, we have these haters, we have these fans that as soon as Goff has a bad game, or as soon as the Lions lose, or both of those things are conjoined together, it's like they crawl out of the woodwork and they just absolutely go to town. And it's just absolutely wild how it almost seems like as if they are waiting in some dark corner somewhere and they're just like, oh, please fail so I can have a moment to do something and just go after Goff. And it's just like, dude, these types of fans, like, they just absolutely get on my nerves because it's like, I don't understand how you can have such animosity. I cannot understand how you have such disdain for somebody who has done so much for this team. Like, that's the part about this that just bugs me. Because Jared Goff has done more for this franchise than virtually any other quarterback since Bobby Lane. I mean, you can talk about Stafford and all the yards, and you can talk about all the great memories with Megatron and all that nonsense, but Stafford never won a playoff game, never won a division. Goff did both of those, and in the same year. So it's like, to me, it's like, listen, if you're going to have a conversation about best quarterbacks in Detroit, Jared Goff has got to be easily within the top 3 conversation. I don't give a damn how short he's been here or the fact that his numbers are not, up there with other guys. It's like, dude, take a look at his resume as far as what he's accomplished. But when we're talking about this game, and we're talking about the loss against the Bucs, it's like, this whole reoccurring pattern has been going on since 2021. Now, obviously, going back to those days, it was incessant. Every single damn week, it was like everybody wanted to go after Goff. And then for the first half of 2022, again, everybody was going after Goff because, they were trying to say that there was something about what he wasn't doing right or whatever the case might be. It seemed like the Goff haters back then wanted to get rid of him at all cost. And they didn't seem to care what the potential replacement was, just so long as it wasn't him. And I told everybody that wasn't going to happen. And then I also said, you know what? Goff's going to get extended here. He's going to be the franchise guy. Many people didn't think that was true. That wound up happening. But now, because those things have happened, now we're in a place where people are saying, well, because of what happened with the game and how Jared Goff didn't have a good performance, he looked bad, now we're getting a whole bunch of new stuff. And I'm just like, dude, this takes the whole, hating on and just ridiculous takes to another level. I've literally seen a couple of takes over the last, 24, 48 hours that just absolutely blow my mind. We're going to talk about those takes, and we're going to talk about why Jared Goff being the scapegoat just simply is, first and foremost, not right, but also how these types of fans are the absolute worst types of fans you can possibly have because they just wait for disaster to happen so that way they can have a moment to talk about stuff. But let's think about this. The first thing that I saw was pretty typical, pretty much the MO kind of stuff that I've seen all my time talking about Goff and being with the Detroit Lions as part of the podcast community. Goff is terrible, mediocre, same old diamond dance stuff I've heard all my time. And the thing about that just is absolutely laughable is like, wait a minute here. You want to say Goff is mediocre. You want to say that yesterday's game is why Sean McVay got rid of Goff. You want to say he's a terrible quarterback, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let me remind you all some things here. Number one, Goff has won 2 playoff games and won us a division title. Goff also has been a top 10 to fringe top 5 quarterback over the last 2 years. Goff also is the only quarterback in NFL history to have over 30,000 passing yards and less than 100 interceptions at the same time. Tom Brady didn't have that. Peyton Manning didn't have that. Joe Montana didn't have that. 3 of the best quarterbacks that have ever played the game didn't have it, but Goff does. Then you start talking about all the other stuff, about how Goff holds multiple Detroit Lions passing records. He holds National Football League records. But yet somehow these people, these types of Lions fans, want to say that Goff is mediocre, that he's terrible, that the game that we saw yesterday is why McVay got rid of him. Okay, here, let's keep some things in perspective. Dan Campbell himself said that what was happening on offense was not all Goff's fault. In fact, he said it was a conglomeration of things that was happening. It was all little detail stuff. I don't see how that falls on Goff's shoulders. I don't see how that makes him the, scapegoat that you have all these people trying to make him out to be. And I'm sorry, that was an ice machine that's over there. But the thing is that it seems like anytime Goff has something about him that is bad, whether it's, turnovers or, he just doesn't look right, they go after him and they say the same thing over and over again. And it's like, dude, you'd think by now, with all the freaking data, all the analytics, all the information that's out there, and all Goff has done here, people would just, have had enough of it. You're never going to win that argument. You're never going to prove it wrong because you're never going to prove it right because it's simply wrong. So that's the first thing I've been hearing about how people are trying to make Goff the scapegoat. But the second one that I've been hearing absolutely just, completely just threw me for a loop. There was this one comment, and I wish I had the ability or had the cognizance to remind myself to take a picture of it so I could put it on the community post, but because I can't put it on here, but I wasn't aware of it and I let it go, but I remember the post. Somebody on Facebook said that Jared Goff had fooled the Detroit Lions into giving him that, $212 million contract he got this offseason. And I was like, wait a minute here. When you say fooled the Lions, you're not saying fooled the Lions. You're saying fooled Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes is ultimately the one that hands out the contracts, not Dan Campbell. So you're saying Brad Holmes got fooled by Jared Goff. Okay, let me explain how that absolutely is an asinine statement. Absolutely ridiculous. Number one, Brad Holmes' draft record already proves, number one, that he knows how to evaluate talent almost better than anybody else in the NFL. When you talk about most GM's draft records as far as successful picks, you would be lucky for most GMs to kind of get past that 30% mark because more often than not, picks are going to be average to complete disasters. To actually have a successful pick is rather difficult to have, especially the higher up end picks. But when we're talking about freaking Brad Holmes literally has a track record in drafting that is like 50 to almost 60%. That's how damn good he is at drafting, which is not only evaluating talent, it's the ability to, see what's going on with the draft board and everything else. So how is it then that Brad Holmes, who knows how to evaluate talent the way he does, which is big thanks to the scouts that he has, but also to himself, how is it that Brad Holmes, who is such a great evaluator of talent, somehow got fooled by Jared Goff? That, somehow, Brad Holmes was not able to properly evaluate him and say, yeah, you know what, I think this guy is going to be the guy. Because let's keep another thing in perspective here. Brad Holmes was the one that advocated strongly for the Rams to draft Jared Goff. Brad Holmes traded for Jared Goff, and then Brad Holmes extended Jared Goff. 3 separate times Brad Holmes has, bet on Jared Goff. So either Jared Goff is actually that good, or Brad Holmes is the luckiest GM in the entirety of the NFL. Well, I'm telling you this right now. Brad Holmes can't be that lucky. So Jared Goff is that damn good of a quarterback. So that's the second thing there. But then I'm going to tie these two in together, because I'm going to tell you this right now. I've heard fans that have said that, the Lions need to trade Jared Goff or bench him, whatever the case might be, so that way Hendon Hooker can step up. So I'm going to combine these two together. First and foremost, for anybody that says trade Jared Goff, you got a really damn short memory, because Jared Goff literally just signed his contract, back in April, maybe early May? And I remember that press conference very distinctly. The thing that Jared Goff wanted more than anything else in that contract, money was not the thing. He wanted, and I quote, a no-trade clause. Those 3 little words. That pretty much means this, for those that are saying the Lions need to trade Jared Goff. The Lions can't trade Jared Goff unless Goff signs off on it. Not going to happen. So you can have that thought, that pipe dream dead on arrival, number 1. Number 2, benching Jared Goff. First and foremost, that's never going to happen unless Goff just absolutely implodes. And I don't see that happening. Because, again, Goff is being paid what he's being paid for a reason. And you're not going to have somebody that's making that much damn money sit on the bench. No way in hell. So there's that. But then when I'm hearing people say, oh, we need to have Hendon Hooker come in, Hendon Hooker save us, all this nonsense like we're seeing on Woodward Sports, I just absolutely think, you know what? These people absolutely are wanting to get this kid killed. They're wanting to have Hendon Hooker get killed. And let me explain why I mean that. Hendon Hooker in the preseason went up against the Steelers' starting defense, Went up against the starting defense of the Steelers. And he struggled. And he struggled mightily. Now, I know in that game he was playing with our backup offensive players. But let's understand something here. I even said it back then. Even if you had Hendon Hooker with the starters, it wouldn't have changed much. The reason why is because the problems that Hendon Hooker is having are part of the lack of development that he has. He's not able to process reads quickly. He's not able to make correct decisions. He doesn't know the intimate details of this offense, knowing all the intricacies of it. That is stuff that takes a lot of time, development, and practice. So those that think that you should bring in Hendon Hooker because somehow he can add a spark to the offense, or that should have happened in the Bucs game, you're crazy. And I'll tell you why. Just because Hendon Hooker is a more mobile quarterback, he has the ability to scramble and dance around, that's not going to do you much. Because what was going on in that game? Oh, that's right. The offensive line was missing blocks, missing assignments in terms of the passing game. Routes were not being run correctly, or you know what? The coverage was so damn good that the wide receivers couldn't get separation. So let's understand something here. Jared Goff had one bad interception, because that first interception was not on him. I don't care what anybody says. That was a blown PI call that should have been called, and it wasn't. So realistically, Jared Goff had one bad interception, and he almost finished with 300 yards, and he actually, if we realistically want to talk about all the things being considered, I'd say he played pretty decent for what was going on. Because Dan Campbell himself said the same things. There was a lot of little details that were not being picked up, whether it was the wide receivers, the offensive linemen, and even Goff missed a couple of reads. But still, Goff did a pretty good job considering everything. Now that's Goff. What the hell do you think's going to happen? You put in Hendon Hooker, who's raw, he's green, he's still developing, he doesn't know this offense nearly as well as Goff does. What the thunder do you think's going to happen when he's going up against defenses like Todd Bowles that have all these very intricate, very, difficult looks, different scheme sets, and multiple different things they can do within one set, when he hasn't even learned the full basics of our offense, and now he's facing all these top-end defensive schemes and looks? He's going to get shredded. Because it's hard enough running against, for him, a vanilla concept defense in preseason. Now you start throwing him into the literal meat grinder of the professional defenses that are all these concepts that are very difficult to look through. Ain't no chance in hell. So for me, it's like, if you take a look at what was going on in that game, Jared Goff, while it wasn't his best performance, it wasn't his worst either. The fact of the matter is there was a lot of things going on in that offense that was not good. Goff sure as hell didn't help, but Goff was not the reason that offense fell apart. There was a lot more going on there. And if we think about it in totality, there was a lot more other things that went on into that game as to why the Lions lost. But it sure as hell was not just solely Goff. There was Dan Campbell's field goal snafu. Ben Johnson wasn't doing a very good job in calling plays and setting things up. And then on top of that, the wide receivers, the offensive line, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into this. So when you have haters that want to say that Goff is the reason or Goff is the scapegoat and, we need to get rid of him and bring in Hendon Hooker, it's like, first and foremost, freaking cool your jets. It's one damn game, and we're only 2 weeks into the season, number one. Number two, all the suggestions you're having absolutely make no damn sense or cause more harm than they do good. Because Goff can't be traded, and if you release Jared Goff, you're going to have a dead cap hit that freaking is ridiculous. And I personally do not want to have, $30, $40 million worth of dead cap for the next 2-3 years. So again, do you all think you know more than Brad Holmes? If you say yes, I know you're lying. The truth of the matter is, nobody really does. So that's why I stick with what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell say and why they look at Goff and say, yeah, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. There's little things we just need to work on. If that's what they're saying, I buy into it. I trust it because they've earned my trust. And that's why, for all the Goff haters, hey, have your moment. You got it. But you know what? You're going to do the exact same thing you did last year. Once Goff starts playing good again and we start winning, you're going to crawl back down your little hole and you're going to disappear all over again. Because when was the last time Goff had a really bad game? Maybe the second Green Bay game. That was a bad game, but Goff did pretty good as far as passing. I would say the worst game he had last year was the Ravens game. So we're talking about almost a year ago if we really want to talk about Goff's worst game in 2023. A year. I can take having a bad game once a year. That's a pretty good, differential between one to the other. But anyway, folks, I'm going to end this episode, and I just want to say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Highly encourage y'all also to please make sure you hit the subscription button, and also make sure you hit that bell notification icon as well, so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also want to encourage y'all to make sure you share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody you can. The more we can share it, the greater the channel grows, spreads, and reaches new people. And with that being said, whether you're a loyal viewer or you just watched for the first time, I hope y'all enjoyed the content. Hope y'all liked what you saw. And I also want to say, hope y'all got something in your life makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.